Hello, welcome back to another week of talking about languages. I thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure to be with you, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend with me to talk about our favorite topic. So thank you. And what I wanted to talk about today was kind of a bit to do with motivation, but to do with what happens when we kind of come across difficulties. So, I've called it sort of this hater thing. And the reason is because I think that haters can be internal and external. Of course, we know haters from the internet. There are lots of people that we come across that we sometimes love to hate or hate to love, or however we want to describe it. I'm not a huge fan of people that are just negative all the time. I just think it's not useful and not helpful. But at the same time, sometimes it can be something to sort of measure things against, I guess. So I get why it can be quite exciting sometimes to see this type of thing. I think where I think we need to sort of land this conversation today is probably where we get to the point where it's actually destructive and where it stops us from doing what we're doing. So whether that's internal or external, I think there needs to be some lines in the sand where we say, okay, this is actually unhelpful and counterproductive. And let's be honest, in the language learning community, what we're doing is something that is possibly not necessary for for some certain things, like may not be necessary for our job. It may not be necessary for our immediate life. For some of us, it is. For some of us, it can be linked to our work or our studies or our living situations. But when we learn languages, particularly languages that are not to do with our immediate needs, my thought on this is it doesn't really matter what people are doing with those languages or with that knowledge. The fact is we're doing something positive. And I think that for me is the key thing, right? Is we're moving in a direction, we're moving in a positive direction by learning something new. So whether that's learning a few new words, whether that's learning an entire language to sort of a degree where we can communicate, or whether that's learning it to read something with a specific goal in mind, all that stuff is positive. And so the first thing I want to say is I absolutely think it's quite terrible when people are overcritical of people doing something positive with their lives. And I think as a community, we can do better, and we can say no to that, because that kind of behavior, I think, is not helpful. And I've witnessed people being attacked or provoked or told that they shouldn't do something, or they're doing something bad, or they're being over criticized. And this has happened over the years. It happened when Moses as well, when Moses was alive. And in all honesty, I think that we should stand up as a community and stand up against these people who are bullies and who try to put people down for doing something what is actually positive. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is, if you see comments or you see hateful remarks or hateful material, that you dislike it, physically dislike it, and report it. And I would encourage all of us to do that, so that we can actually have a positive environment. And I think that we all deserve a positive environment. So I want to start on the sort of the way I mean to go on, because it would be a little bit ridiculous for me to talk about motivation and internal not liking things without addressing kind of the elephant in the room, I guess. And that is that I think we do need to stand up to things that are not right and not conducive to a positive environment. So I encourage you all to go out there and to thumb down things that you find are just being negative in an unhelpful way and in an unnecessary way. And be active in doing that. Be allies to the people trying to do good in the community and to your fellow friends who are working to do something positive. And yeah, Timothy's just mentioned Walter, and some people are very negative about Walter. You may not like what someone like Walter does. You may not agree with the style. You may not agree with the type of content. You may not like the popularity. But what Walter is actually doing is not negative. He's trying to bring smiles to people's faces. He's bringing people some joy. You can see when he's doing these kinds of things, he's doing something kind. And I've spoken to Walter on calls, and he is a really nice person. He's a genuinely nice person. And I've even met him in person. He came to a polyglot event in Ljubljana, and I met him in person. He's a sweet person. He writes me messages to check in how I am, and he's very nice. So even if you don't like them, I think that the key is to let's start stamping out and standing up for the community, for the people we care about in the community, and for our own well-being, because we don't need negative elements. We don't need negativity. What we need is people doing positive things and encouragement, and that positivity to grow. And so I would encourage you to join, and let's all be as positive as we can, because it's from that level that we then move forward with our language learning. And look, what we're doing is, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to you that, I don't, in terms of, for me personally, I give my time freely, and I enjoy giving my time to you to talk about language learning. And I'm not here to sell you anything, but even if I did have a product, and even if I were selling you something, that's okay. It's okay for people to sell you things, because if they're offering you a lot of things for free and they have a product or they have a life that they need to support and need to live, there's nothing wrong with that. The same way as there's nothing wrong with if you were working in any other type of work where you had knowledge or expertise and you were to work on it in a professional manner and then also give freely to the public, but then let people know that you actually do this as a job if they want to come and get something from you as well in a professional way. I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. So I think that sometimes people get unnecessarily negatively criticized, and I think that we definitely need to stamp that out and to stand up to it and to not allow people to do that, and to speak up. And I think if we all speak up together, one of us is one thing, but if we all speak up together, we are a loud noise that can really make things happen and change things and keep our community positive, and put us in a place where when we come to talk about language learning, we can actually talk about language learning and focus on what we've got to do. Because, and this is kind of where I was coming from in the very beginning when I thought about it, and it was actually some of your comments that made me think about saying this in the beginning. Because I noticed that some of you are affected by this type of external hater, and this isn't actually wasn't what I was originally thinking of, but I think it's important to say it, because if you're writing to me with these comments, then clearly it's important to a number of us in the community, and so therefore it's important to me. And I think that we do talk about we shouldn't put up with bullies, and we shouldn't put up with bullies. We should stand up to them, and we should not allow them to bully people in our community. We deserve better than that. And so with that said, in terms of the where I was coming from originally was about I feel that sometimes when it comes to language learning, our biggest haters are actually ourselves, the voices in our heads. And I think that, when we learn a language, often what we'll do is we'll set ourselves a goal, and that goal will be like here somewhere, right? I want to learn, I don't know, pick a language, any language, Polish to an A2 level. And I want to do it in 6 months, okay? Now, in those 6 months, you know, this poor person who's chosen to do COVID, to do COVID on the brain, to do Polish in 6 months to an A2 level, catches COVID, feels sick, is sick for a bit, has some issues at work, needs to work overtime, they have a big project on. All these things happen and then kind of out of our control. But what do we do normally when that kind of thing happens? Do we give ourselves a break? Do we allow ourselves to review and revise our goals? What I find very often is actually we don't. We keep the same goal as we had before when everything was running really smoothly and we had a nice chunk of time set aside every day to study the language. We'd get our little cup of coffee and we'd drink our coffee and we'd study our language and we'd enjoy sort of carrying on with it. But then all of a sudden we've had a few weeks of really tricky times, and they're not things that we're to blame for. But what we do is we blame ourselves for not achieving those goals. And we blame ourselves for not being as far ahead as we would like to be. So what we do quite often is we do the thing that we're taught to do at school and in our communities and by our families and just generally in society. And that is we move up. We're always constantly moving, right? So like at school, you go from first grade to second grade to third grade to fourth grade to fifth grade to sixth grade to seventh grade to eighth grade to ninth grade to 10th grade. And you just carry on. And then once you've done that, you go somewhere else. You go to university, you get a job and you progress, right? Languages aren't like that though. Languages are a topic where you need to review, you need to revise, because you have to take the basics that you learn with you to the advanced levels. You have to. You can't leave them behind. You can't all of a sudden study a language to the point that you're talking about politics and the economy, but then you can't introduce any of your family or friends or talk about the weather anymore because, oh, that was the basic stuff that we did and I've now forgotten that. But if we don't revise it and if we don't review it and if we don't practice it, we're not going to actually be able to speak about those topics that are important and are definitely the kind of the cornerstone, the important part of the language. And so I'm a firm believer in being realistic with ourselves. So if you're in a situation like the one I gave just now of somebody setting a goal of A2 Polish in 6 months, but then they have kind of like 3 weeks, a month of being sick, then what I would do is reassess that goal, review what you've missed, because if there'll be attrition, there'll be things that are missed during that month. Go back, review, revise, maybe reset your goal to A1. If it's easier for you because you're still feeling a lack of energy, reset it to A1.1, the first half of A1. Because what can happen is that's where you may end up anyway, okay? It's better to set the goal and reset it at a level that's more realistic than to keep the goal here, get to here, and actually achieve something really worthwhile at an A1 level. It's really worthwhile to get that level than to still have this A2 goal in your head when you've got to A1 and you should be rightfully happy with what you've achieved. Instead, you get to the end of the time and you look back, and instead of seeing success, you see failure. And this is something that I see very commonly of, but I haven't really got anywhere, but I haven't done this, but I haven't done that. It's because we're always measuring ourselves as though we're robots, as though we've we're not human beings, that we shouldn't forget things. And and if I worked, and if I work full time at full pelt, then I know I can remember everything and I know I can achieve this goal. And often those kinds of things that we set ourselves when we talk about setting, a goal, we have a goal in mind of doing something, and then we remember one time where we actually worked almost 24/7 on something to make it happen. we really hammered it. We went back and we hammered it, and we got there, and we did a really good job, and that's fantastic. It's fantastic that we did a good job. But we didn't do anything else. And that was not a bar that we set as the norm. That was us working like a crazy person to the point where we were exhausted mentally, physically, and we needed a holiday afterwards. That was not us working at normal capacity, because that's not normal capacity. That's kind of robots. That's, Terminator level study. And unfortunately, I think, and I hear this very often as well, we almost expect so much of ourselves that we expect to be at this Terminator level of language learning constantly, and that's just not a reasonable expectation. And so when I talk about sort of hater, the worst hater, the one that affects us most, is the one in our heads telling us, oh, you did that time, why can't you do it now? What's going wrong? What's wrong with you? What's this? What's that? Why aren't you doing this? And unfortunately, that's the one that we listen to most. I mean, somebody writing something on the internet, yeah, I mean, depending on how sensitive or how much you take it to heart, it can hurt. But actually, the one that's living in your head, the one that's telling you these things, the voice in your head, is the one that's actually most dangerous. Because the one in your head, the hater in your head, the voice in your head that is the negative voice in your head, telling you haven't done enough, or telling you that you haven't met your goals, or telling you that you should find more time, or telling you that you've made this mistake or that mistake or another mistake, or you're not doing this right and you should know more and you should do it better. That hater, that voice in your head, that negative voice in your head, is the one that does the most damage. And that voice does the most damage because that's the one that affects our motivation in the morning. It affects how we are able to sit down and study. It affects everything we've achieved, because it discolors everything. It just puts a poison through all the good stuff that we've done. And so what I would ask you to do is to always remember that you're doing something positive. You're learning a language, you're doing something positive. Even if you don't learn 50 words in a month, you learn 5. You've learned 5 new words that you didn't know before. That's positive. It might not be what you originally planned to do, but hey, life is very rarely something that we plan. I mean, who planned that we'd have a pandemic now? Who planned that many of us would be stuck at home for 2 years? Who planned any of this? It's just life. Life happens, and I think sitting down, considering it, and reevaluating is really healthy for our own well-being, for our own mental health, and also for our language learning motivation and for our ability to move forward. So that's kind of where I am with my thoughts on this. I just had a few messages before we started, and I've got things about dealing with negativity and focusing on positive things. And this is things that you can control, right? Things that you can control in your life are, you can control what time you have. You can control whether or not you turn on Netflix and watch Netflix for 3 hours, or whether before you do that, you use Netflix as a treat and you say, actually at 10 a.m. or at 10 p.m., whenever it is that you have the free time, you say, I'm going to sit down for half an hour and study and review my work from either class or what you've been studying before, and I'm going to review, or I'm going to have a lesson, or I'm going to do something language related. And then you can maybe reward yourself with your favorite Netflix show or whatever you want to do. But yeah, it's making decisions. The decisions are things that you can have some kind of control over on sort of an hour by hour, day by day basis. Yeah, I've actually, Tiff, you've written this. Tiffany, thank you. Remember myself that I am still learning, and it's okay to not know everything. Absolutely, absolutely okay to not know everything. Absolutely okay that you're doing something positive. Thank you. That's really, really nice. I like the way you've put that. Remind myself that recognizing what it is that I don't yet know is value add to my learning. Absolutely. Yeah. Anything you sort of learn, anything you're doing is adding value to you. You actually don't know what it could be. You can't use Netflix to learn languages for 3 hours. You can try, you can do it. It depends what you're doing. I mean, some people can watch Netflix and learn quite a lot of stuff. But I don't know if I'd make that my main or only sole thing that I do in language learning. I think I would do a little bit of other stuff as well. But what I'm talking about is kind of using Netflix as I'm not doing anything else, I guess. And I think that's the kind of trap that we fall into. If you don't recognize yourself in some of this, it's not, look, everything's not for everyone, right? Some things you'll recognize yourselves in, and I'll say it and it'll hit the spot for you. Some of you might think, actually, that doesn't apply to me. If that doesn't apply to you, that doesn't apply to you. And you know who you are, and you know if it applies to you or not. And you know if it maybe applies, but in a slightly different way. I'm not going to hit every single person who's listening, but I'm aware of that. The same as like a book that you read won't speak to everyone, but I guess knowing what you know, where you do feel that you are sort of having these struggles, and we all have struggles from time to time, right? So it's not even on a sort of every week, every month, every year can be different. Okay. Okay, I like this. You just try to ignore all the people and focus on how to move my inner motivation up. That's nice. Yeah, focus on yourself. Absolutely, on moving forward. Okay. I like this. I got a message saying, I try to be a good friend to me. Doesn't always work, but I try. That's nice. I like that. I like that. Trying to be a friend to yourself. Be kind to yourself. I mean, I often say to myself, you know, would I say what I'm saying in my head about me to someone else? And if the answer is no, it would be awful, then why are you doing it to yourself? And don't you deserve better? Don't you deserve that kind of love and respect back from you? And this is something I think we as human beings sometimes struggle with, which is why I say sometimes our worst haters are in our heads, but we deserve the same love and respect back. Hey, I mean, you know, we've got feelings too. So yeah, absolutely. Okay. And I'm trying to see here now. 5-minute meditation. That's quite an interesting one to have. I think, yeah, things like that, taking some time to sort of almost detox the mind, I guess. Like meditation works for a lot of people, and I can see how that would be good. I have one person who says there's no such thing as negativity in learning, on your perception of it. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from there. I think that sometimes the learning process itself can seem it can be, I guess, it can be imbued with negativity because of other factors. So it could be because we're using a methodology that doesn't really talk to us, speak to us. It could be that we are, you know, we're just not gelling with the materials that we've got. And it could be that what we do when we sit down and we think about what we're doing is we reassess the kinds of activities and the kinds of materials we're using. Because sometimes it's as simple as changing those things that just makes the whole experience feel more positive. It can be as simple as that sometimes. And it's always worth questioning. Always question, okay, am I feeling this? Is this right? And I think if you can answer that question every so often, you know, obviously it might not be every single day that you ask yourself that question. I'm not going to expect that maybe you will ask the question every single day if you're just quite happy carrying on. But it is a very important question to ask yourself often. So that was kind of where I got to with the comments and where I got to with my thoughts. So I hope that was useful. And now I'm going to go back and have a look at the questions or the comments that have come in as well. So Shanna wrote, I'm an introvert and I don't learn mainly to speak as much as to read or to do grammar. When it's down, I ask myself, what's the point? I'm not making a difference to anyone quite often. Shanna, that's a really thought-provoking and thoughtful comment, and I'm sorry you feel that way sometimes. I do understand that feeling, and I do, and I have seen it before, and I've even felt it before. You know, why am I doing this? I think it comes back to the question of, if you started doing it and you had a motivation to do something, even if maybe you don't see a solid end goal, like an outcome that you particularly think other people might find important, just having the knowledge and being able to use your experience and your skills and your knowledge in conversation and communication with other people, it can enrich the experience of the conversation and the experience of somebody else's time on this planet. And I think that that is worth doing. I enjoy sharing things about etymology or things I see, links between languages, and I found actually I get quite a good response from people when I share those kinds of stories and comments and thoughts. You know, people do genuinely seem interested in those kinds of things when I talk about them, and I do get nice comments from people when, and that makes me feel quite good about learning. Even sometimes languages you wouldn't expect that, you know, there's no real reason to learn it, but if you learn it and you can make connections, it becomes almost like one huge Sudoku puzzle, and I quite enjoy that. And I think even if you're learning it to read, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, you can read as much as you want, and you can be a polymath. You can just read in one language, you can read in two, you can read whatever you choose to do. You're doing something positive because you're doing something that's helping you learn and expand your horizons, your thoughts, your mind. And people's minds and thoughts will be expanded in different ways. So how I take on my language knowledge and how I use it and how I express it will be different to somebody else. And it's not different better, it's not different worse, it's just different. So I hope that from what we've talked about today and with my answer, that helps you somewhat to reconcile, you know, what happens when you're in that dark place and you think, what's the difference? What difference am I making? Well, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised when you explain things and you just brighten someone's conversation or someone's day with something. It's, or even your own day. You don't even need to do it for someone else, even yourself. Like, you just sit there and enjoy that you've seen a link, or you've put some things together, and the world makes that little bit more sense today than it did yesterday, because you've understood a reference in a book that you've read to history, or to philosophy, or to religion, or to other cultural things of importance, or even sort of etymologies that you've put together because you've read something in a book, and you have that eureka moment. And there's something really nice and special about those eureka moments. I love those. I live for those eureka moments. That's what I live for. If I'm truly honest, it's those moments of, I've got it, I know something, I understand something. It's like the best adventure you can ever go on, and it just keeps on giving. That's the thing that I particularly like. Yeah, I really like thank you for sharing it, first of all, Shanna, and also just a great deep question. I love it. The main obstacle in language learning is finding a purpose. Yeah. I like that you've agreed with that, actually, Heidelbaum. That's yeah. Bok Timothy, hi. Sorry, I didn't say hello to you all individually. Hello and hello, 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 hello. Guten Abend, ja, hallo. Goedenavond, ja, bedankt voor de inspiratie. Heb je tips voor Tsjechisch, om Tsjechisch te leren? Ja, gewoon, ja, is voor alle talen eigenlijk hetzelfde. Want ja, je moet gewoon elke dag wat doen. Want als je niks doet, dan ja, krijg je dan niks van. Dat is gewoon voor alle talen hetzelfde eigenlijk. Dus voor mij is het wel belangrijk dat ik 3 keer in de week of zo, 2 of 3 keer elke week dan leren. Dan heb ik tijd zo een uurtje voor mijn talen. Dat doe ik even tegenwoordig met Iers. En dat doen we, ik doe eigenlijk met Nederlander. We doen dat samen. En we hebben 3 keer in de week, dan maandag, woensdag en vrijdag. En dan probeer ik dan de andere dagen dan iets met Iers te doen. Dus dat betekent of gewoon iets weer doorlezen, of gewoon een ander formaat kan wel op Facebook of andere sociale media zijn. Dan in Instagram of zoiets, of TikTok. Dan heb ik vele mensen die ik volg op die manier. En dan krijg ik dan contact met de taal. Zonder eigenlijk heel veel te doen. Dan krijg ik gewoon zo een beetje tijd voor. En dat doe ik dan elke dag. Dus, en dat is wel voor mij heel belangrijk. Want als je niks doet, dan krijg je niks van. Dat is, en dan voor Tsjechisch als taal, dan kan je wel misschien dan boeken vinden die gewoon voor Tsjechisch goed zijn. In het Nederlands, dat weet ik niet meer. Ik ben al zo lang niet meer in Nederland geweest. Maar tegenwoordig, dus ik zal zeggen dan, zo boeken zoals, die bijvoorbeeld heb ik in Tsjechië gehad. Die zijn mijn boeken voor Tsjechisch. Dat is één. Dat is de andere. Ik denk dat ze wel ook een andere boek voor hebben. Maar ik weet niet zo zeker. Dat is voor B1. En dan dat is voor... van het begin eigenlijk. Ja, met Tsjechisch. Dat kan je dan... dat is één boek. En dan... Er zijn wel andere boeken. Net als... Ja, dat hadden we aan de universiteit gehad. Dat was Communicative Czech. Ik kan geen Engels meer spreken. En dat is ook... Er zijn ook andere boeken. En misschien ook heb ik eigenlijk Teach Yourself Tsjechisch niet slecht gevonden eigenlijk. Maar nog... ik denk dat was het. Dat was het. Yeah, so that was it for Czech. For Czech. There we go. Going back to English is always it's always fun, isn't it, from Dutch? Maar bedankt voor je vragen. Even kijken. So let me see. Guten Abend alle zusammen. Hello. Agree. So, okay. Video. Okay. Yeah. And nice to see people saying that you're supporting Walter. I like that you're saying that, and also, about not feeding these people who are, particularly not very helpful in the community. So it's a different channel. Style is not my style. Yeah, Walter's style doesn't need to be your style. Exactly, I agree with you. But respecting the person, he's a kind person. He is a kind person. He's not a mean person. You know what I mean? He's doing sweet. He's a sweet guy. I'm getting a lot of criticism for learning too many languages at the same time. People are telling me that I can't do that. It's impossible. I think that should be my choice and no one else's. Inga, absolutely. Absolutely agree with you. I used to get told really strange things like, if you learn too many languages, your brain will explode, or something silly. And what are you going to do next? And this is one thing that I remember I was told, and it stuck with me forever because of where I ended up being, right? someone said, what are you going to do next? Learn Serbo-Croat, because it was at the time when it was still Yugoslavia, and it was still called Serbo-Croat. So like, you can learn Serbo-Croat next. And I was like laughing because I thought they were joking with me. And then lo and behold, I end up in the Balkans and I did end up studying these languages. And so I have to kind of laugh because it almost feels like it was some sort of weird prophecy. Somebody said to me, but absolutely ignore them. They're naysayers. They're naysayers. Don't listen to the naysayers. You do what you like to do. I mean, you're doing something positive. Learn. If you want to study, whatever you want to study is fine. I mean, seriously, it's like, even if, and I said this to some people recently, even if you only want to learn like how to introduce yourself and say basic things in like 100 languages, you do you. I mean, you're not doing anything bad. You're doing something quite fun for you. You're going to, you'll enjoy it. If that's what you want to do and that's your goal, there is nothing intrinsically wrong with doing that. It's like completely crazy to think that there's something wrong with somebody doing something they enjoy and are passionate about and they're motivated to do. Not everybody wants to learn every language to a high level. Not everybody wants to learn, to read complex or beautiful literature, or read poetry, or even talk about like the economy or politics or whatever else. We're not all the same. We all have different motivations and needs and things that just engage us. And whether that's multiple languages, whether that's one language, you do you. Seriously, you do you. No one comes around. Like, I mean, seriously, I mean, no one comes around with like loads of a pot of money to give you for doing it. No one comes around with, I mean, unless you get a job and you can use your skills for something, but no one comes around. I mean, I've never been given like loads of money for doing like learning lots of languages. It's fun and I enjoy doing it and I enjoy sharing it with you. But no one's no one's knocking at my door saying, here's like $1 million, or it's not what happens. You do you and enjoy it, and let everyone else do it. Everyone else. I mean, just all do what you want to do. Seriously, there's nothing wrong with that. I see it as positive generally. Ciao amica, come stai? Molto bene, grazie. Chanel. Come va tu? Tutto bene? Me and my old homeroom, whenever I would learn a language, people would say, why would you do that? Yeah, I used to get that kind of thing as well. People generally were not too bad where I grew up. They were quite nice to me. But I got some funny comments as well. Like they were like, they couldn't get why I would like languages this much. You can learn 1 or 2 foreign languages very well, and many superficially. Of course you can. It's like what you like yourself. Exactly, Alphonse. I agree with you completely. This is the thing, and actually I said this once in a live. I said, learning languages, like focusing on 1 or 2 languages and getting to like PhD analyzing the use of clothing vocabulary in 18th century French literature can be your thing. You can go that deep into it, right? You can go really deep into whatever you want. But you doing that does not mean that you can't do something else. It's not a dichotomy. And I said this once, and I actually got somebody wrote to me, and I was really, really pleased that they did. And they said, you know what, that was actually something I needed to hear. And it's true. And I'm really pleased that I got that feedback, because that meant a lot to me to get that kind of feedback. I mean, I love getting that kind of feedback where someone says, actually, this spoke to me. This is something that I needed to hear. And that's makes me feel very good. So yeah, I really enjoy seeing that kind of stuff. And it's absolutely true as well. I mean, like, I studied languages at university. I've worked through languages, and I've used them for my life, and I've used them for work, and I've used them for relationships and friendships and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't mean that I can't play with other languages. And it doesn't mean that I can't play with one, forget it, and then come back to another one, and then maybe revisit it years later. All of that's possible. It's not, look, I mean, there are no written rules here. There's nothing, this isn't school. We're not told to do certain things for a certain purpose. This is what we want to do. Yeah, Timothy, it's right. Yeah, Walter's not afraid to speak languages at a low level and make mistakes. He's curious about lots of languages, and he's willing to approach people. He has many soft skills needed for language learning. Absolutely, Timothy, I agree with you. He's got a lot of he's got a very nice presence as well. He's very, when you meet him in person, he's actually a very sweet person. He's very nice, and he's very kind. He's respectful. He's just genuinely a nice guy. So yeah. Okay, Inga, you stop telling people what you're studying on Twitter because people give me grief about it. I'm sorry you're getting that. That's terrible. I was just lying, etc. I don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't. Of course you don't. Absolutely you don't. You do you, seriously. Tiffany, I have to remind myself that any improvement is a good improvement, even if it's just having a quick moment of insight. Definitely, Tiffany, absolutely. Let me see. Oh, I needed to hear that today. Alex, that's nice. I'm glad that you did, and I hope that it helps. I feel like falling behind with Turkish, but I have to realize that there's nothing wrong with it. No, you don't need to be completely advanced. There's no reason right now. It's not going anywhere. You can always put it on hold and come back to it. You can improve it later. I mean, I've had languages that have stayed at kind of an A2, B1-ish level for years. That was my Greek for many years, and it's still not much better than a B1. I mean, it's probably around about a B1-ish level. It's fine for what I need. It's fine. I go to Greece. I speak in Greek. I don't need to use English in Greece. I can speak Greek to the people and communicate what I want, what I need, ask questions of people. But yeah, it could improve, and I would like to improve it. But I also recognize it takes time, and I actually quite like learning other languages too. And for what I need my Greek for, actually, I already can do that. So there's no real push to motivate me to really sit down and study very hard, if that makes sense. So that's the kind of thing also, you have to recognize what the real push is, what's making you move forward. And if it's not there, it's not there, and it's good to admit it. Let me see. I found that splitting my study day up into bunches, lots of 20 minutes bursts throughout the day is much more effective than 2 to 3 hours straight. Human being, absolutely. 2-3 hours straight can be really tiring. I agree. It would be the kind of what I was talking about, this sort of almost robot level, the Terminator level of studying, not necessarily something we can keep up long term. So yeah, I'm glad that you found a solution that works for you. That's really nice to hear. During vacation in Lisbon, I grinded so hard with Memrise that I started to yell at myself for not being fast enough, and my wife had to take it away from me. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Yeah, you can't do that. You can't be that hard on yourself. But yeah, I'm glad your wife was there to save you. That's good. Let's see. Alex, Bill Gates, is that what he thinks trying to control us? Oh wow, okay. I'm guessing that's to do with us being controlled. Okay. I know it's rhetorical, but be careful with those questions. Oh, questions. Okay. I'll try and be aware of what I'm saying. Let's see. You watch from Netflix in Japanese with subtitles. Fantastic. Yeah. Doing it to help with your language, I think, is quite cool. Yeah. As a new theory of language learning, they say that the most important is to just have fun. What's your opinion on that? Yeah, I mean, look, if you have to do it for a reason, I mean, if we're lucky in that we don't have to learn languages for a particular reason, then yeah, just have fun. Having fun's good. As long as you're happy with that, because having fun also comes at a cost, and there's a cost for everything, right? None of our actions happen in a vacuum. So if you have in your head a strong desire to learn a language and you just go out and have fun, well, depending on what fun is for you, fun is very difficult to define. But if I were to say to people, just go and have fun, and you've got a specific goal, or maybe you have an exam that you have to pass for work, or for a visa that you need to get to go and live in a different country, or for a job opportunity or something like that, and I say to you, just go and have fun, enjoy it. I'd be a little bit irresponsible, because I also think that sometimes if we have a strong goal that we need to meet, and that we need to actually do something and achieve something, or if it's important to us that we know that we will be very disappointed if we don't get anywhere near it, you know, illnesses and whatever else aside, there is a point where we have to say to ourselves as well, this language isn't going to learn itself. It's not going to go in by osmosis. We have to do something. We have to be an active agent in the process. It's not going to just happen. And so I also think that we do need to treat a language with a level of respect. So the kind of respect we'd give a partner, or we'd give a client. And I think that means actually putting time in, and marking out time that we want to study, but time that we know we can afford. And this is where sort of being honest with yourself, and what can I afford to do in terms of time, and therefore what could my goal possibly be. This is why this is really important. And if this changes, this base changes of what you can do, then the goal needs to be adjusted as well, so that we stay motivated and don't start hating on ourselves. So as much fun as you can possibly have, I would say. Can I say it that way instead of just have fun? Have as much fun as you possibly can. Find things that you naturally enjoy in the language. So on your days where you're not maybe studying, like studying through a lesson, or whatever else, find things you enjoy. Find music you like. Find films you like. Find TV shows you like. Chat with people. Do things on Clubhouse, or do some social media, looking at channels that you like. I actually gave some people the advice of, if you're on social media and you notice that you are just following all sorts of things, you could even set up a new social media channel just for your languages, and go through that. And just, I think actually Benny Lewis does this. He has like different social media channels for his actually getting information or materials in certain languages, and then you follow. So for example, you just follow channels that use that language either to communicate or to teach the language. So that's what I would do. So Jodie, your passion for languages was triggered by the first COVID lockdown in the UK in April 2020. Learning languages seems to be the only mental escape I get from the troubles of the world at the moment. Jodie, I really feel that. I really feel that, absolutely. So I ended up changing my study plan. So I was studying Persian. I'd started studying Persian. I started studying Korean, and I had goals with them, and I reevaluated them, because my retirement plan languages, which are the Celtic languages, to get more into Celtic languages, became an option for me to study. So I just started studying those, and actually I really, really enjoyed doing that. And I'm very glad that I made that swap, and I made that shift, because I think it fitted in very well with the whole COVID period. So I'm really pleased that you've got that too, you've got that outlet for your for the COVID and pandemic time. Okay, Alex says, I've heard it said before like this: imagine that your inner voice in your head as someone you respect or look up to. Talk to yourself as if that person is telling you. Yeah, that's nice. So yeah, respect both ways, absolutely. I have learnt this today by watching a video from Platz. I'm trying to read that actually. Elige ser valiente. Oh, elige, okay. Elige el riesgo, elige ser valiente, elige. Oh, I'm sorry. Elige el riesgo, elige ser valiente, elige a ti. Elígete a ti, sorry. Siempre apuesta por ti. Sé tu fan número uno. I like that, it's nice. Me gusta mucho esto, sí que me gusta. Вважаю всім доброго втворювати позитивні вибрації. Oh, wow, I read it in there. Thank you. Дякую. Is that right for Ukrainian? I can read it, but I don't speak Ukrainian. I can just understand when I read. But дякую, I think that's right, isn't it? That's how you say it in Ukrainian. Someone correct me if I'm wrong for Ukrainian. I don't speak it, but there we go. Hello, good to see you. Chanel's question reminds me of whatever an interview I saw yesterday between Language Come Up, Mark, and Something Polyglot Kenny. Kenny pointed out that the end benefit of languages is not always obvious. Absolutely. My biggest critic is myself. Can't think of who's my biggest hater. And my biggest hater would be, as I am not anyone big. Rasmus, kind of a hater and a critic. I think that the voice in your head is it's a critic, but sometimes it can say quite horrible things that you would expect a hater to say, right? Maybe you're lucky and your voice is very nice to you. I hope that's the case. But some people get really horrible voices in their heads, like their inner voice will say really mean things. And I've heard this a lot. So I want to acknowledge that. Not everyone's going to have the same experience of this, of course. It's all going to be different for every individual. But yeah, I mean, and I just need to disagree. I'm not anyone big. I'm not anyone big. No one's bigger than anyone else. So I don't know what you mean with that, but I just want to kind of correct that and say no one's more important, no one's bigger, no one's better. We're all human. We're all worth the same. Some people choose to be nice about it, and some people choose to be mean about it. And then it comes to who you choose to hang out with. And I say choose wisely. Choose the people that lift you up and not the people that put you down. Choose the people who speak nicely about other people and not in a mean way about other people, because they're the ones that will speak nicely about you and be there and give you the support you need. People who speak meanly and very negatively about other people will probably tend to do the same about you when you're not in the room. And so I always say we're all worth the same. So there's no need for us to sort of make any distinctions in terms of that. Only who is being positive at the moment and who's being negative. And negative people who are being negative at one point in their lives can change. And I believe that people can change. There are certain things that are very difficult to change, but I believe that some people can have epiphanies and can kind of see the light and change to be more positive and to or at least to not put people down. I think that's possible. So yeah, yeah, Rasmus, you're worth the same as me and as the same as anyone else. So I actually feel guilty for not starting my language learning journey sooner, considering I've always loved languages. Does that make sense? It absolutely makes sense, Jodie. You know what? You've started. There's no bad time to start. We can't go back and change coulda, woulda, shouldas. What we can do is be happy with what we've done now and the choices we made. That's the positive thing. And we start from a positive place and move forward. And your journey will be unique to you. And the things that you discover on your journey will be unique to you, and you will have your own unique view and vision of the world. And how it impacts your life will mean something to you in a very personal way. And so whether you start it now, whether you started it 5 years ago, whether you start it in 3 years' time, doesn't really make a big difference. I know what you mean, but I think that all goes back to, thinking that we need to kind of almost go like the school system, right? At a certain age, we need to have done this, and that. There was a story of a British lady who started learning Russian when she was, I want to say 70s. And then she went and did a degree in Russian, and then went to do a PhD, and ended up starting to translate literature from Russian into other languages, I think into English. And she was even in Russia at one point, I think. So look, if somebody starts you know, at that kind of age, 60s, 70s, or even later, why not? Some of the people in my Cornish class are, I don't want to sort of give their ages away, but they are over 70, and started learning Cornish in their late 70s, and I absolutely adore them. And I think that what they're doing is so nice and so positive, and I love spending time with them. I absolutely adore it. It's one of my favorite things, and it's probably one of the most humbling things ever, is to the conversations we have are just yeah, wonderful. So there we go. So never ever too late, and you're right on time. You're exactly on time. One can learn languages just to read. What about people who can't speak or are deaf? Yeah, exactly. So some people can't speak, some people can't read, some people, for many reasons, can't do many things. And yeah, it doesn't matter. We all are on our own journey with this, and whatever we do and however we use the languages and however we use the knowledge is so personal, and so, and it's, if it's valuable to the individual, that's the important thing. If you enjoy it and it's valuable to you, then fantastic. That's the best thing in the world. Yeah, I like that, Tiffany. It's never too late to learn anything, so long as you are living. It's a perfect time to learn. I love that. I love that, Tiffany. I love that. Simply das Beste. You felt the same way. Wow. Yeah, it's not. No, it's definitely not too late. Absolutely not too late. Altijd verrassend als je weer Nederlands spreekt. Met vlekkeloos accent. Ja, bedankt hoor. Ja, 2 jaar in Nederland. Ja, is goed hè? Ja, is gewoon, ja, is mijn leven geweest. Het is een deel van mij, Nederland. Nederlands is gewoon, ze zijn een deel van mij geworden. Dus voor mij is gewoon normaal hoor. Ik kan die kwijtraken. Moet ik zeggen. Ja. But my mind is so toxic. I think to myself that if I started earlier, then I would be so good at French right now. Yeah, simply das Beste. That's the kind of thing that people tell me that they think and that they do to themselves. And everyone is right here. You know, Tiffany is right. And now is the right time. Now is the perfect time. There is no going back. The important thing is that you're doing it now, and focusing on what could have, would have, should have been, it doesn't lead you anywhere good, unfortunately. It really doesn't. And we want you to be somewhere good. We want you to be successful in what you're doing. We want you to have the journey that will bring you fulfillment and bring you the personal experience that you crave and need for your own soul, for your intellectual nourishment, for you to move forward in a positive way. And the fact that you're on the journey at all is amazing, because you've made a choice, you've made a positive step, you're doing something good. So yeah, I hope that repeating these positive things more like a mantra is probably going to help more, I think, with that, because it's never too late. I wait until my late 30s, but it's going great, actually. Fantastic human being. I love that. Thank you for adding that. I mean, is er is goed leermateriaal verkrijgbaar in het Nederlands om Tsjechisch te leren. Oké, dat weet ik niet. Ja, ik kan me even zeggen. Ik heb even schrijven. Dat weet ik niet. Ik heb alleen maar Prisma in Nederland. Dat ken ik wel. En dan andere dingen, dat weet ik niet meer. Ja, en voor Tsjechisch sowieso, want ja, dat is al 20 jaar geleden. 20 jaar geleden hoor. Dus dat is lange tijd geleden. Hello, welcome. Dankjewel. Ja, graag. Let me see. I have Chiski Kroksa Krokem. Yeah, that's another one that I saw today actually on a call. Kroksa Krokem, step by step. They have that as well for I think it's called that as well. No, it's not. It's called Križom Kraž. This is for Slovak. This is Križom Kražom. As I did a Slovak, as like sort of learning some Slovak for a few weeks as a kind of a bit of a fun thing to do. Let me see. Okay, you can't just after the past, but you okay. Okay, Walter says when you speak Dutch, you sound like a native speaker. That's very sweet of him. I'm sure if people listen to me long enough, they're going to hear that I'm not. But it's very kind. The compliment is definitely very kind, and I appreciate it. I failed to learn French and Japanese not at the same time in my 20s, and I started with Swedish at 39, and it's going much better. Fantastic. I love that you're sharing this. R.I.P. Moses McCormick. Yeah, miss Moses. I miss not seeing new videos from him. And yeah, still can't really compute that what happened. Still don't. It doesn't sort of even. Yeah, it's quite weird that to even think that that's happened. I think a lot of us do miss him. The real question is, are you enjoying the language? Then you're probably doing fine. Absolutely, I agree. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to get through all these questions. There are so many of them. Thank you all so much for writing so much about it. I mean, this is really, really good. But I love it. Yoga Bliss Dance. Yeah, I love seeing you here. Thank you. I'm glad you're doing well with your Italian as well. I love it. You see, documentary about polyglots. I need another documentary about polyglots. The 16 times 9 did a good job, but I want another one. Yeah, maybe there might be another one. Who knows? Who knows what they might make in the future? I'm going to try and see if I can answer some of the questions on Insta as well. I'm sorry, I've not got to all the questions today at all. There are so many of them, and it's super, super difficult. Let me see what I can manage, and I'll do my best, I promise. Yeah, I think this is the thing is, yeah, so Polyglot Sam, yeah, Polyglot Sam, this is true. We do tend to compare ourselves with other people, and this is possibly why these ideas of I should have done it earlier, I should have done this, or I never done that, and I've studied this and I'd studied that. Thing is comparing ourselves with other people doesn't often help. It doesn't take us somewhere helpful or useful in our language learning. So I would always say only compare yourself to yourself. And I know people say that and it sounds almost empty, but it's true. I would say, honestly. Hello, Richard. Arabic course at Dalarna was amazing. Still going at it. Fantastic, Benjamin. That's fantastic. Wow. I love that you're doing that. I love it. And you're carrying on. Were you in my class then for the first one? I love that you're carrying on with it. I wish I could carry on with Arabic. I've tried to learn it like 3 or 4 times, and it's just every time I get interrupted by something else that I have to do, and then it takes priority, and then I have to put Arabic back in on sort of the back burner. And maybe one day I'll get to Arabic and I'll learn. It's a beautiful language, and I've got so many nice Arabic speaking friends. Can you find if that 70-year-old lady's the lady's name? Would love to read more about her. I'm not sure is the very short answer. Possibly. I think it would be probably because it was in newspapers in the UK, and she was quite famous. So I'll see what I can find. I'm not sure where I can post it that you'll see, but I'll see what I can find. Okay. I love that you've all opened up about this, about age and stuff, because I think it's really, really part of it's part of what we're discussing, isn't it? It's that voice in your head telling you things that are not true. It was fine that you started now. Now is the right day to learn languages. Now, whenever you're watching this, it's now. It's not It's not in the past. It's not some other time. It's now. Now is the right time. You started at exactly the right time for you. Okay, you've started at exactly the right time. and it's true. I know it sounds corny, but it's true. It's absolutely true. And you're doing something positive. Keep doing it. Keep at it. And yeah. Yo empecé a aprender otro idioma para demostrarme y a mí mismo que es posible. Cuando yo era niño, me dijeron que que no soy capaz. Igualito conmigo, ¿eh? Igualito conmigo. Tampoco me decían cosas bonitas, buenas en la escuela. Así que pasó igual, ¿eh? Es que me decían que no iba a pasar mis exámenes ni nada. Y pues mira, aquí estoy. No escuchaba. Hey Richard, thank you for the consistent live stream that are filled with language learning wisdom. Very, very welcome. I'm glad I can help. I actually really enjoy doing these, and I've enjoyed talking to you all every week. It's just, for me, it's a pleasure, and I'll keep doing them as long as I possibly can. Currently studying Spanish. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get to all your questions. I'm so sorry. I didn't expect this many questions. Normally I have like enough that I can get through everything, but today I'm not going to be able to. But if you do have burning questions, feel free to drop them on a post or something, and what I will do is I look at the questions. Even if I don't answer them all, I do look at the questions and I try and incorporate them into my live streams, and I try and make them all work. Oh, here we go. The name of the person, Mary Hobson, completed her PhD at 74. There we go, Mary Hobson. So I knew she was in her 70s. I thought it was old. She was even older, but 74 is, so it's a good age to finish a PhD. And yeah, okay. I'm so glad that you all came. Thank you very, very much. And as I say, if I didn't get to your question, I am sorry, and I will do my best every time. Wow, she's now 95, Mary Hobson. Yeah, and she was translating like in her 80s. I know she was like translating literature. I love it. Hugs from Liverpool. Hugs right back at you to Liverpool. My word, I miss home. I want to go back and see everyone in that part of the world. It's been too long. Hopefully I will get back soon. And I miss the pool. I love, Liverpool is kind of one of my home cities. So hopefully soon. All the best to you all. And I will look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care, everyone. Be good to each other, be kind to each other, and stand up to those awful voices in your head and the voices of dissent outside as well. And look after each other, take care, and all the best for your language learning. Take care. Bye-bye.